Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. It is Friday, August the 4th, and there's no better place to be. Starting out, Scott Hackler, where you at, bud? Come on up here and let's get the invocation, followed by Henry Borbola with the national anthem.
These words were written 500 years ago and 5,000 miles away by Saint Teresa of Avila, and they are just as true here and now as they were then and there. Pray with me, friends. Let nothing disturb you, nothing distress you. All things fade away, but God is unchanging. Be patient, because with love in your heart and God in your heart, nothing is lacking. God is enough. Amen.
No one back there. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank y'all very much. Kathy, you're doing the roast. Did you get that? All right, next up is Rosa Berdeja. Rosa, where you at? Is Rosa here? There you are.
Hello, hi. Good afternoon and happy Friday, Rotarians and guests. My name is Rosa Maria Verdeja, and I would like to welcome our guests today. Normally we recognize them individually, but we do have 11 guests today. So if you are a guest joining us today, if you would please stand up and be recognized. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you invited a guest today, if you would please stand up and be recognized. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rosa. I will make an exception to that. We do have a guest today. Charles, where are you at? Charles Lauerdorf? There he is, right over here. One of our freshman city council members. So please give him a warm welcome. And hopefully we will see a membership application soon, right? All right. Today's program is brought to you by Element 8. These gentlemen right over here who are friends and former classmates of mine. Element 8 is a next-generation internet service provider specializing in bridging the digital divide and providing increasingly critical broadband connections to rural and other communities. Element 8 remains unwavering in its commitment to providing outstanding telecom services and making a significant impact in the communities it serves. This dedication has been the cornerstone of its mission from the very beginning. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for your sponsorship of today's program. Next up, John Fletcher with the newscast. No, go ahead and do the newscast. Okay. We'll put the four-way test out behind the glass. That's it.
I think he wants to see if I'm going to violate the four-way test. Good afternoon. It is time for Rotary News, and in honor of past President Sean Snell's fascination with Elvis, do we have? Her fascination with Elvis Presley trivia. His driver's license was 257-1459. So please remember that. Do you have a clicker that I can use, Tom, or if you can just hold on one second? All right. Make sure we got it going. Okay. Well, in entertainment news, our own president, Captain Kirk Driver, was almost even more famous. A reliable report shared that he was the first choice to replace Pat Sajak to host Wheel of Fortune. The deal fell apart when Kirk insisted that Leonard Turner Vanna White could only wear a police officer's uniform instead of a beautiful dress. In health news, the journal Neurology reports that brushing your teeth can help to reduce your risk of dementia, and so it's important to be doing that. Some people do get a little bit carried away, and so don't do too much. But gum disease and tooth loss seem to be linked with less gray matter and also declining mental health. Inquiring minds want to know, where do you get the best lobster in America? In this case, it's Arkansas. Well, it gets worse. It's at Red Lobster. That's where employees found an ultra-rare orange lobster in a shipment. Rather than serve him, they chose to donate him to the Ripley's Aquarium in Myrtle Beach. So keep driving to Arkansas, the new sort of lobster capital of the world. Okay, it's time for politics. You can't accumulate $15 trillion in new debt over a decade without hurting your credit. Fitch Ratings lowered the United States bond rating from AAA to AA+. That means that if our federal government wants to buy a used Ford Taurus, they'll need to get a cosigner, possibly China. No, it's painful. And the former President Donald Trump has achieved the rare indictment hat trick, now called the Trump trifecta. Being indicted on 3 different occasions, he has, wait a second, something's buzzing, hold on. Okay, this just in, he's been indicted again, this time for, he killed Elvis Presley. Oh, conservative media are still not letting go of the story of the white powder in the White House. And in a show of priority, the Department of Justice has assigned the case to a new lead investigator. They're giving him the title of special prosecutor. The DOJ has chosen Detective Frank Drebin, played by the late Leslie Nielsen in the Naked Gun movies. And the White House has also announced a new climate change measure to block sunlight. We will all carry an umbrella, especially when indoors. And this just in, Dr. Fauci wants us to use those umbrellas, we said indoors, and also he wants us to wear a mask. In the entertainment world, legendary singer Madonna continues to have health issues. So according to industry sources, she's just a bacteria girl living in a bacteria world. Oh, I hated doing that one, I'm so sorry. And Kevin Costner is leaving the series Yellowstone, where he will be replaced in another series by Matthew McConaughey. Costner was said to be hearing voices telling him to build yet another baseball field in a field of corn. And robots are taking jobs in the restaurant industry in Colorado, where cat-faced robots are serving meals. And one restaurant owner said he was having problems after the pandemic of hiring new servers, so he bought 3 of the robots. So far, the only complaint is that when customers order fish and chips, instead of getting potato chips, they get computer chips. Ooh. And a father, who may go down as Father of the Year, turned the tables on robocallers after one of them chewed out his son 10 years ago. Roger Anderson created an artificial intelligence, yep, that's AI, call deflection system that puts incoming spam calls on a line with a ChatGPT-powered personality that keeps the caller talking in circles as they extract information from the chat box. So far, the AI can talk about debt consolidation, Medicare, new credit cards, and pretty much everything else. Revenge is sweet. And finally, thank you very much. And this is a true story. Researchers from Texas A&M University School of Public Health have discovered that the least productive workday is Friday, today. And the most important finding was, well, I stopped being productive and I quit. That's Rotary News.
Thank you, John. All right, and getting us back on track, for those of you who are our guests, Rotary for a very, very long time has been guided by what we call the four-way test. That test was devised by a gentleman who was a Rotarian who went into a business, saw a bunch of problems, and realized that if you correct these things and if you follow these things, those problems go away. Most of your problems in your business and in your personal life, for that matter. So, if you'll repeat after me the four-way test. Number one, is it the truth? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And number four, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Very good, thank you. Next up, we have Tran Trong with a short message. Come on up, bub. Sorry, getting back on track.
That's okay.
Okay.
Four-way test. It's always good. Well, before I begin my 2-minute pitch for meeting sponsorship, let's recognize our sponsor again, Element 8, and the guys right there. Kevin Grace, the CEO right there, and his cohorts. And also Ben Robertson, our fellow Rotarian, who's instrumental in bringing us today's sponsorship. Thank you very much. Now, you notice we don't have a logo sign, so we're going to try to flash the logo sign as often as we can. The sign maker didn't make it in time for our sponsorship today. But that's the topic that I want to talk to you for a couple of minutes today. I was up here in May talking about, and I had a question for you. We give away about $100,000 a year to nonprofits in our community. And we just did, just passed through the year and probably will again at $5,000 a clip. If we give away $100,000 a year, why do we have to get sponsorship to augment our operating budget? Anybody has an answer? I know Tom Law has, yeah. That's because under the law, we cannot mix those two funds. And that's why we have golf tournaments, we have meeting sponsorship. And you don't have to own a business, CEO of a business to sponsor one. You can know a friend who owns a business who's working for a company in town. We even have nonprofit sponsors, like Pastors for Texas Children and Arts Texas and more. So contact me, Aurora. Let's flash and we'll talk to you. And that's the best advertising deal in town. It's not a giveaway. It's promotional and advertising. You see how much Element 8's got exposure to all of you today, right? Well, thanks very much. So we'll talk. If you guys are new members, you probably will hear from me pretty soon. So have a good meeting. Have a good meeting.
Thank you very much, Tran. And now we have 4 new member introductions. Connie Blake, come on up and let's introduce your new member, please. Are you here, hon? Ma'am? There you are, right in front of me. Jim Austin, you're on deck.
Well, I'm thrilled to introduce my friend Corey Harris to our Rotary Club of Fort Worth. Corey is the Executive Director of the American Heart Association here in Fort Worth. She has a Master of Business Administration in Strategy and Entrepreneurship from SMU's Cox School of Business, a Master of Arts in Sustainability and Development from SMU's Lyle School of Engineering and an honors interdisciplinary bachelor's degree from UT Arlington. Woo! Corey has a diverse professional background in nonprofit, entrepreneurship, higher education, and corporate America. At an early age, she became an entrepreneur and managing family-owned businesses with an international reach. Their most recent launch is a company named Mindset 2X, whose mission is to motivate and inspire sales professionals, challenging them to double their expectations of what they can achieve. I need some of that. Born and raised in East Texas, her favorite pastimes are playing golf, cooking for friends and family, and being in nature. She and her husband, Chris, live in Fort Worth and have 2 grown children. Corey, welcome to our Rotary Club of Fort Worth, and please share something about yourself we may not know.
Thank you, Connie. I am so pleased to be here. In the course of getting established here in Fort Worth, Connie reached out and invited me to this wonderful meeting, and I went home and called my mom and told her all about it, and she said, well, honey, your grandfather was a Rotarian. And she actually has a book, an international Rotarian book of service, and she kept it. So she gave it to me. I have it. I brought it today, and I was thrilled to know that I am a legacy Rotarian. And a fact that you may not know, that one that we are quite proud of and we boast quite frequently about in East Texas, is Abraham Lincoln is our 10th removed cousin. Granted, it's removed, but we still claim it. We're quite proud of that.
Congratulations. Thank you both. Thank you, Connie. Jim Austin, will you please bring your new member up? Jared, you'll be on deck next.
You know, it is truly my pleasure to be up here because I know the rules is that I have 2 minutes to introduce Nicole. And I've been practicing ever since last week when we knew Nicole was going to come in. So last night we had a good time. We had 8 new members gathered upstairs, and the bar was open and the food was open. So we got some good members coming into the club this week and next week. So one of the things about Nicole, you might think that she's already a member because she's been here probably at least 8 times as my guest. And she said, Jim, I want to become a Rotarian. Because basically when you talk about service, we talk about Nicole Upton. Nicole's hobbies are service, volunteer, and being involved with the community. She's already connected with a few members, so you'll see her volunteering and being active. And last night she volunteered for a committee. They said, you can't do it yet because you're not a member yet. But it's my pleasure to bring Nicole in as a new member. She's got her BA in real estate. She's got her master's in finance. She's an entrepreneur. She has her own company in Arlington. In 2003, she hung her shingle out. She does commercial real estate. She does residential real estate. I do commercial. And I'm a broker. She's a broker. So we work very closely together. And I just want to welcome Nicole as a new member of the Fort Worth Rotary Club. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you all so much. Like I said last night in our informal meeting, when I think about Rotary and what I've learned, I feel like it is definitely a suitable fit. And one of the things that stood out to me was service before self. And in my business, that is the philosophy that I use, is service before self. Because when you do right by people, you never have to worry about if you're going to be profitable or not. And that has been proven in my life and in my business. So Jim mentioned a little bit about me. I have a BBA in real estate. I have an MBA in finance. I'm alumni of the University of Texas. And yes, Longhorns. And I service the DFW area in residential relocation services and property management. Now, one thing that you guys may not know about me, and I think is pretty interesting, and as you get to know me, you'll know that it governs me. I am an ordained pastor. So if you ever need prayer or encouragement, you will always see me, even in the most gloomy of days. Look for the sun behind the clouds. Thank you so much. And I consider it a privilege to be a part of this club. Thank you.
Jared, come on up, Bubba.
Well, following in Jim's footsteps, I guess I'll spend the next 2 minutes talking about myself and letting you know who I... No, I'm kidding. Twice already. I'm going to start by saying, it's a privilege, it really is truly a privilege to introduce to you someone I have been really fortunate to get to know over the last year and a half, Dr. Samir Vaidya with Texas Wesleyan. Samir is just a phenomenal thinker and a strategist, but also he is a leader at Texas Wesleyan. We are fortunate to have him in our club. Samir is living in Plano, but we'll forgive him for that because he spends so much time here in Fort Worth. But without further ado, I would love to introduce you to my friend and colleague, Dr. Samir Vaidya.
Thank you, Jared. That was a great introduction. So I came here from India in 1991, and I won't go into the details of how I got here, but I got here in Scranton, Pennsylvania when I first landed in the US. So that was quite a thing for somebody from India to be in Scranton. Found it to be too cold, and I decided to come down to Texas because I had some friends at Texas A&M. And I got into a school that was in the Rio Grande Valley. So no internet, no cell phones, no way to find anything out about the place. I love mountains and I love valleys. So I got in my old beat-up car and drove down to the valley expecting mountains. Much to my shock, there were no mountains in the valley. But I loved the place, I loved the people, it's a very unique culture there. So I had a good time there. I got my MBA and my PhD at the UT Rio Grande Valley. And I came up to the Fort Worth area via Texas A&M Kingsville. I came up to Fort Worth because I'm a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. And I applied for jobs in Houston and for the Fort Worth area. And I got both of the jobs, and I said to my wife, it's a no-brainer. We're gonna go to the Fort Worth area because that's where the Cowboys are. So that's how I got to Fort Worth, and I love being at Wesleyan, 20 years there almost now. Something that is unique about me is usually you think of academicians as people who just read books and listen to classical music and drink wine. Well, I like to ride my Harley Street Glide. I'm very passionate about riding motorcycles. I've been to Sturgis, I've been to the Blue Ridge Parkway, Colorado, Washington, Yellowstone, and just recently, last month, I was in Europe riding my motorcycle through the Swiss Alps, Germany, Italy, France, Austria. So that's my passion. And I also love to listen to rock music. So thank you for welcoming me, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm very happy to be here.
Randall Fluke, come on up.
Okay, would all the Eagle Scouts and Gold Star Scouts raise your hand or give the scout sign right now? See, Ray, you haven't even joined the club, or you're new to the club, and these are all these people that you have something in common with. Ray grew up in Kansas, where he earned his Eagle Scout, then went on to Kansas State University, where he studied engineering and business. And then he went out to California to Purdue to pursue a graduate degree. And while there, he was able to get his first job and use business and his engineering background at the same time, and that was with a little company called Lockheed Martin. He was part of the Skunk Works project out there. Then, as things happen, his original plan was to stay in California for a while and then, move back to the east. But he met a girl, and you're going to love her too, his wife Rima, who is here. And that changed his plans, also meeting mentors and having great opportunities in business there. And he began to work with a large, closely held for-profit company. And he has held many positions with that company that has allowed him to use his strengths in learning, in accounting. He's been the company president, the CFO, a board member, director of the internal audit, and lead financial accountant, is just a few of the things. He's a great guy. I'm glad to have gotten to know him, and you're going to love meeting him and his wife, and welcome to the Fort Worth Rotary Club.
We're so thankful to Randy for the invitation to first attend and then join this Rotary organization. It took almost 10 years for me to move from California to Fort Worth. It all started in 2014, almost serendipitously. Our son chose TCU as his place to go to college. So anyway, my wife is a terrific TCU fan. But we started coming to parents' weekends, fathers' weekends, other unscheduled visits. And through the years, we met friends here, new friends. We reacquainted with old friends, and it just felt like home. So after college, our son stayed. He took a job here in Fort Worth, and he's loving it. And that took about a year after that, and his sister decided that she wanted to be in Fort Worth, so she came, and she brought her husband and 3 grandkids, which totally hooked my wife. So they came. I had some work commitments to fulfill, so I shuttled back and forth. And so it's only been since April this year that I've been able to be full-time here in Fort Worth. When we were in California, we were plugged into all kinds of organizations in a volunteer and service capacity, church, booster clubs, YMCA, local organizations. So service above self, the things that Rotary stands for are just a perfect match for what we're going for. And I'm just looking forward to working alongside some of you here, because I think when you're working in a project with people, that's one of the best ways to get to know them. Thank you.
Welcome all new members. Look forward to working with each and every one of you on these projects and the committees and seeing you at the meetings. Now for the program. Our chairman of the day, please come up, Fernando Costa, Mr. Past President Fernando Costa.
Good afternoon, folks.
Afternoon.
Yes, sir. Please, Bill, please conserve your energy for the speaker. Cities today compete intensely with each other at a global scale to attract investment, and talent. And the big winners, increasingly, are those smart cities that foster a spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation. So, how are Fort Worth and North Texas performing in that environment, and how might we do even better? To help us in answering those questions, we're delighted to have with us the Executive Director of the North Texas Innovation Alliance, Ms. Jen Sanders. After graduating from the University of Virginia and spending over a decade in public affairs and change management consulting, Jen worked with our friend Trey Bowles. You'll remember Trey from his having spoken to us at least a couple of times recently. Worked with Trey in 2015 to co-found an organization called the Dallas Innovation Alliance, helping the city of Dallas to formulate and execute their smart city strategy. And on the basis of that success, in 2019, Jen and Trey co-founded the North Texas Innovation Alliance with a broader geographic scope and the goal of making North Texas the best connected, smartest, most resilient region in the country, with benefits to Fort Worth and all the other communities in our region. Now, in the interest of time, I'll spare you the details about all of her civic engagements. She's active in many community groups. She's earned all kinds of awards and recognitions at a fairly young age. And she's spoken to groups all over the world, including the last 6 years at the Smart Cities Global Congress in Barcelona. That is the premier event in smart cities. And just last fall, our former president, Carlo Capua, led a delegation from Fort Worth to Barcelona for this event. And Tom, I don't know if you can show us the image. Jen encouraged us to emphasize our brand of cowboys and culture. And so hundreds of smart cities experts from around the world visited the Fort Worth exhibit to have their picture taken by an image of the Fort Worth stockyards. Now, Carlos said those folks were from Italy. These ladies were from Lithuania, and they seem to be having a good time. They haven't even opened the bottle yet. I'm delighted to welcome Ms. Jen Sanders. Jen.
Thank you for the kind introduction. And I was going to say, if you're not going to bring up the whiskey, I am, because I think between the whiskey and the Instagram wall with the stockyards, that was the kicker. And really, it was such a wonderful first year for you. I mean, my gosh, the attention and the afterward, the companies that reached out to me and said, how do I get in touch with those folks from Fort Worth? There's really something going on here. So when we talk about the economic development impact of smart cities, the more economic and relocation specialists I talk to now, I say, where does this fall? Where does the innovation and the openness for innovation coming from cities fall into the tiers at this point? And they said, well, between connectivity, thank you for working on that, between connectivity and broadband and just knowing that they can try new things and that cities are flexible is a bump and kind of a non-negotiable for a lot of the companies I know we want here in North Texas. So this is a big deal. This is kind of my life's passion, and I want to thank you all. My oldest niece actually received a Rotary scholarship, so she was able to go be of service in Argentina about 10 years ago, and it transformed her life. She's still in global service, so thank you very much for that. And on the digital divide, I just want to give another shout out to our host today, because the rest of my team is actually at the Mayor's Back to School Fair today. We're doing a lot of work in digital divide, and we're doing ACP enrollment today. And so Affordable Connectivity Program provides $30 a month in internet, which can really fully subsidize high-speed plans today, so those without internet in the home can have it. That's my plug. Spread the word there. So I got way too excited putting this together for y'all, so I'm going to talk real fast, and I'll make sure y'all can get the deck afterwards too, and certainly happy to talk following. But my quick story about this photo, this aerial shot right here, is when we launched the Dallas Innovation Alliance in 2015, our friends at Boca Powell did some of these, what I call my pretty watercolor pictures, right? They did some beautiful renderings of the West End and downtown Dallas with the vision of what this could be if we implemented a lot of these newfangled smart city plans and connectivity plans. And so after the breakfast, a gentleman came up to me and he said, "So you think you're going to put a park in my parking lot, huh?" And I didn't realize the infill park I had in there was owned by the gentleman that was at this breakfast. And I said, "I just think we should go from pavement back to paradise. I think you'd be all for that." So, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, but that parking lot did become a park, an infill park, which is really an exciting project. So I'm going to run my mouth. We can skip over here. But so how the world used to think of Dallas-Fort Worth, and I cannot tell you internationally how much this gets a lot of chuckles here. So, and we're amazed that when I do travel internationally, I say, you know what, I want to honor the pioneering spirit of DFW and how we became who we are and how we continue to be wildcatters, but I want you all to leave. This is particularly in Tokyo. Earlier this year, this happened too. I said, but what I want you to know is we brought that spirit into today. We have 267 people moving to the region every day. We have the second highest number of tech jobs posted. Hold on, it's easier for me to follow along here. Now have 42 Fortune 1000 company headquarters, last I checked. We named the number 6 most innovative city in the world, and that Do You Think Now Innovation Cities Index is really well respected globally. That was a big jump we had this year. And the 10th most resilient city in the world. But really, what defines a smart city? So how many of y'all feel like smart city means technology? Or is that what you've heard in the past? Well, this is great then, if everybody's with me on this is ultimately a human impact play here. And so when we started our work, we knew we needed to come up with our own North Star because there were so many different definitions of smart cities. And so we really look at it as how do we find the intersection of data technology alongside the community to solve problems with new tools. And ultimately, we want to create higher economic impact, resource efficiencies, which we think about both as internal efficiencies and operational efficiencies, but obviously natural resource efficiencies as well. But the biggest piece is how are we improving the life of each other? And so, if we think about regionally, the whole joke is, do we know where we are and does it matter? Because so many people in our region cross at least one county line every day. And I know that when I'm driving around, I don't really care where I am. I want the traffic signals to work, and I want to know that emergency response can find me and all of these pieces. So more than ever now, the ability for all of our systems to work together as we cross jurisdictional lines, this region, more than so many in the country, really just can benefit immensely from looking at these problems collaboratively together. And so again, why the regional approach is critical. This is not a surprise to anybody in this room. We got a lot of people coming here. We got some infrastructure that's getting old in a lot of places, and we need to know how are we going to manage those, not just manage that population inflow, but how are we going to make sure everyone has the experience that we know people have here, and how do we make sure that extends in the future? And so that comes in the face of a number of other challenges that we all know are here. But really what I know is, I know a little, or I know a lot about a little, and how can I put my slice of expertise in with all of your slices of expertise so together we can solve these challenges, because it is not one person's job to solve. But what we're looking at now today, what we already know, things are moving quickly. Technology is certainly moving ahead of my understanding. I'm learning every day too, certainly ahead of regulations, and AI has come up a couple of times already today, and that's certainly something that's at a really critical time period for us to all kind of wrap our arms around. And so really, we're all trying to catch up, and we're all trying to get ahead of the curve in a lot of ways. So when I talk about boundaries in action, I'm talking about the geographic boundaries. If we want to move quickly, if we want to move efficiently, if we want to attract some of these large companies, we need to be working in lockstep so that traffic congestion comes down as you travel across the region, all kinds of things here. And some of this speaks to a shift in a planning approach. And my joke is always, and I just put an addition on my house, so this is all very fresh. The 5 most expensive words in home improvement are "while we're at it." The 5 cheapest words in city planning are "while we're at it." And so we think about the visibility of it, and one good example is when a bond program comes down, and we've kind of worked with some cities that have them coming up, and college systems and whatnot, and we just said, let me see what that hard infrastructure, what are you planning? And I said, have you thought about doing these other things while the road is torn up? Have you thought about all these other things that would help public safety? And when you look at it and you look at the incremental cost, that can do so much more, but it really takes having these multiple perspectives together to find that. The cost of tearing up a road 6 times, and that's our new city councilman. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of calls about potholes, you know? And when you have the ability to find these efficiencies, there's a lot less phone calls coming into City Hall, from what I understand. And so we want to make sure that we're taking that view as projects are being planned. I'm so sorry, I wasn't clicking forward. You didn't know what I was talking about. Here we go, all right. So city innovation by its nature isn't flashy, but this is the stuff that is most critical, right? And we hear about procurement a lot, both from the public and private sector. So we're looking at what are some ways that cities are helping with that. But we have to do those things if we want to get to the flying cars, which I really did think we would have by now. I also thought we'd have HAL 3000, 9000. Who remembers 2001: A Space Odyssey? I know. So it's really important to get the foundation right. But we can't forget the risks, right? And this, again, speaks to cybersecurity, speaks to AI, and the things that we don't know what we don't know, and it's very hard to keep up. And so I don't know if y'all remember the Target hack that happened a couple of years ago and really impacted a couple 100 million people, but I don't know if you guys remember how they got in. They got in through the HVAC system. So because they had the smart HVAC systems and there was a wall that went down, and someone was able to get into the HVAC system, which wouldn't ultimately have been a huge deal, but got to the financial system through that. But so it was ultimately, it was the guts of the building that led to that. And so you learn a lot, but those are the kind of things that don't immediately come to mind. But the funny story at the bottom, you might recognize the Venetian fountain there in Vegas. So a friend of mine that works for the city there, is one of his stories that he tells is the Venetian fountain got hacked. And it didn't get in anywhere bad. The casinos may have the best security of any of us, but they changed the programming and did some weird stuff. But I said, how did they get in? And he said, someone plugged in a corrupted USB drive into where the programming goes into the fountain. So you just hear these stories and you think about these basic things. But the point being that it's something that we always need to keep in mind as we get really excited about these new opportunities to deploy technology. So why do I do what I do? One, I love making a difference. I love getting people in a room that may not have any idea why they're in the same room at the beginning, but hopefully by the time they leave, they go, oh, okay, I get it. This is why we want all of these different roles to talk to each other, and I see what my part is now. But kind of the journey for us, as was mentioned, we launched the Dallas Innovation Alliance in 2015. We ended up being able to put the Living Lab in the West End in downtown Dallas. It's 11 concurrent projects, but we did that. It was the fastest clip of any Smart Cities initiative in the country. So we went from use case to in the ground in under a year. And a lot of cities' jaws drop when they hear that, but it's because of the collaboration and our ability to operate in the right of way as an agent for the public good with the city of Dallas, and it's because everyone came together. When we started the North Texas Innovation Alliance, we are the largest smart region initiative in the country. We have over 40 members right now. 70% about are public sector members, and that's very intentional because that's who we want in the room, that's who we want sharing information, and then we want all of the subject matter experts to come to the table and tell us what they're seeing, what's worked, what hasn't. And so we've really had a great time there. And then for the National Smart Coalitions Partnership, so we work with so many cities and regions around the country. We've done it informally for years, and we said, why don't we establish a formal way that we can work together? And so we formed the National Smart Coalitions Partnership a couple of years ago. But it's really all in an effort to, we all feel the same way, and that whatever we learn, we want the next region or the next city to be able to move faster than we did. So I've really been encouraged being in this space because we're all fighting a lot of battles. We're trying to solve some huge initiatives and issues. So that flexibility of having a freestanding nonprofit is something that we've found to be true in terms of moving quickly, again, bringing best minds to the table. And so I love what I do, and I'll probably be bugging everybody for years to come running my mouth, but I love it. And so just a little bit about where NTXIA is focused. I'll do this really quickly, but these were voted on by our members. These are not going to surprise you. These are probably top of mind for most of you here, but digital infrastructure and connectivity, that speaks quite a bit to broadband. Also the equity component of that. Procurement and financial models. People think I'm nuts. I say I'm not trying to solve the whole procurement system, but I'm trying to help it move faster. That's my goal. Economic development, workforce, transportation mobility, digitization, and how are we using data effectively and ethically, and then resilience and sustainability. And so the program areas, what we really look to do is how do we make an impact? How do we convene people and move projects forward? I often joke, how can I get the right people in a room and get them excited enough that the above my pay grade decisions are easier? So I kind of try and get it to the point where a great idea can be substantiated, if it's the best path forward. And so we do a lot of different initiatives and really try and take folks to the solution, and so we've started doing field trips, as we call them. We did one to Peachtree Corners in Atlanta this year. And so there's a lot of things we're working on. One recent piece is we brought a group of folks together at Fort Worth City Hall, actually about innovating for the World Cup. And what I continued to hear from people around the region was, we're so excited about this. We want to do it right. We also want to make the most of the investment to get ready for the World Cup and make sure that the projects we put in are impacting the region long after that event happens. So how can we do really cool things, but how do we make sure they're the right things? And so got a great group together and had an initial conversation. We're going to continue. And I've been starting to work with other host cities, and I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if the US had the most coordinated and innovative and best experience World Cup, because we all work together. And so my hope is that all of the host cities in the US can come up with some really harebrained schemes to get ready for the world stage there. Something that we did for Dallas County a year ago was help them develop a smart county blueprint. So this is really a framework. How do they make decisions? How do they identify the right things to focus on from an innovation perspective and then work through it? And that they're one of, I could probably find 4 other counties in the country that's taken a concerted effort in this space. So we love to take the learnings and share them. We'd love to share them with Taryn and everybody as well. And but the first initiative that was really, really cool that happened last month that was part of an execution of this, because drones and robotics were such an area of interest, and they were an area of interest across 7 departments. So this is a great example of them saying, I think this could kind of solve my problem. I don't know enough to know it. How do we find a way for me to have a good enough understanding of what would work and be effective to me to go to pitch for budget to go and do it, but how do I get enough information to really know? And so we did a call for innovation around 4 different use cases for 4 different departments, but some of these solutions, the great thing is you can buy one thing, it can do about 5 things. And so again, when we're looking at how do we maximize those dollars that are spent, but we had over 90 companies that were interested in this call for innovation, pared it down to 10 companies. Those companies flew into our area, including from the UK. We had people shipping their equipment from the UK. I was kind of shocked, but it was amazing. And so we had a great turnout there. Everyone was like a kid in a candy store. I can send a video around later. We had robots running around and vacuuming. And I said, do you have a consumer version of this vacuuming robot? And they said, not yet. I said, please let me know. I would like one in my, especially because it was quiet, because my dog does not do well with the Roomba. But we had a really great experience, and the county, as a result, has really been able to formulate some ideas and is probably going to move forward with a couple of these areas, which is an incredible outcome, and to have that information and be able to move quickly, which is one of our goals. And then one of the things I love to do is brag about the region and all the cool things that are going on here. And so I really make an effort to tell the North Texas innovation story about the work that's going on individually and collectively. And I have bragged about Fort Worth, just to be very, very clear. So you guys have so much great stuff going on here. So those are just some recent examples of spots. But then in our backyard, I talked about the West End Square Park. I'm going to go quickly. So that's that parking lot that gentleman yelled at me about for taking his parking lot. And it became this smart park. And the really cool thing about this was, because this parking lot was in the middle of the Living Lab in the Innovation District, Downtown Dallas Inc., and everybody that was involved in the park really got behind, we want this to be a part of the Innovation District. So we decided what we wanted to define a smart park as, right? And then the architect really helped us to use sustainable, kind of net zero technology and materials, and then smart experiences is kind of what we call that bottom left, which is actually a video wall that interacts with you and people around the world. So there's this great art installation where we want to be able to test new technologies. And so a lot of the ways that, that smart solutions help us day to day, often we can't see them. And I think that's one of the challenges in really having people understand what these things are. And so usually I don't look at a light and I can't tell that there's something on it that's helping me, but I might notice that my commute is 5 minutes shorter. That might be something I notice, but I may not know that it's all due to these technologies that are coming into play. But there's all kinds of things moving around today. A lot of great, LA is doing a lot around congestion. We were talking about parking lots and conversion earlier today, but things like smart loading zones, if we're tired of seeing double parking from Uber drop-offs and things like that in downtown areas, they're creating mechanisms where they can monetize the curb. They can find ways to keep it moving. It can be reserved. So they're eliminating parking issues and they're eliminating congestion issues downtown. So there's a lot of ways that you can integrate and use this technology to operate better. Something cool going on in North Texas that I always like to brag about. The 4 cities and the lake cities, including Corinth and Lake Dallas and everyone, when the broadband issue was really hot before the funding had come down, they were like, we need fiber. We're having trouble getting people out here. We're not Dallas, we're not Fort Worth, we're little. And so they all came together and created an interlocal agreement. They got 4 city councils and 4 mayors on board to come together and issue a joint request for proposals around broadband for their 4 cities. And that went through seamlessly. They won awards for it. They should. And it's very, very hard. It's something that's very hard to do, but ultimately it brought the services that the community needed up into that area. And so I love that's a great example of that collaboration. Some of y'all may be familiar with the McKinney Innovation Fund. So this was something innovative that actually, I think coincidentally, but it was launched during COVID. And it resulted in them still bringing innovative businesses and startups to McKinney during that time. And obvious impacts there, obviously countering some of the loss during the pandemic, but it's just a really interesting way to use dollars and find ways to incentivize the small companies, which a lot of cities are kind of working through. What policy changes can we make? All right, so let's talk about Fort Worth. And I know that I want to try and leave at least a couple minutes for questions, but the whole idea is, how do you take your strengths and maximize them and leverage them? And you guys have had, I could have done 6 slides filled with initiatives and filled with logos and news coverage. But some of the themes that I hear a lot about when I travel are, one, transportation, and we talk about freight and logistics and autonomous trucking. And Fort Worth in this area maybe have the biggest cluster in the country around kind of future-looking freight and things like that. So I think I think looking at logistics and healthcare and all of the things that y'all are, combined with a very open for business city council and city hall, and we think about the blockchain, and the crypto mining at City Hall and the amount of attention that got. But there was no city in the country I'm aware of that was even willing to look at that and bring that in. And so I think, again, it's an idea of, how are we looking at the momentum that we have? How are we looking at the while we're at it? And you kind of do have to pick some winners from the standpoint of what subclusters are we looking for. If we know we have strengths in these 4 areas, what I always say is, what's the solar system around each of those industries? What's the emerging uses there? And can we get ahead of it that way? And so, when I think about the peer innovation ecosystems, because I know that it's important to hear about kind of what I'm seeing and, how we compare right now to some others. And so I would just say that the handful that I often will raise in terms of having kind of a really good integrated ecosystem, one is our friends that are part of the National Smart Coalitions Partnership, and the Colorado Smart Cities Alliance is a statewide initiative that's doing some really incredible things. But Peachtree Corners is about a 50,000 person town outside of Atlanta, but They have built such an incredible program out there and are recruiting companies from all over the world, to come and locate there in this testing ground, and just doing really incredible work there. And we have a partnership to learn from them. Las Vegas has some lessons learned, we talked about, Austin, and then Smart Columbus, who won the $50 million U.S. Department of Transportation grant back in 2015 that was announced to create a smart mobility solution. And so they've got some lessons too. But the common threads are all of these areas have defined innovation corridors, which the proclamation from the city last year around these innovation zones and the ability to operate is a huge component of. And that is another example of we're open for business and we want to try new things and we're open to new things. And that really resonates, not just domestically, but globally. The majority are driven by public leadership and investment. And so on some level, and so I think, the ability to share the cost, to everyone have skin in the game is something that is also very reflective in the encouragement there. Oh God, I'm already out of time. I'm almost done though. I actually did okay. But creating a culture of risk tolerance is a big piece too, and that's where public-private partnerships come into play quite a bit. So we always, when I pitched Mayor Rollins in 2015, one of the things I said was, listen, I know you have to be risk averse. Let me tell you this, if it works, you did it. If it doesn't, I fall on the sword. And he said, okay, go do it. But having a mechanism to do that is really important. And then we will skip, but again, the key takeaways here, helps if I can read them, but you can see them. Innovation attracts innovation. Pull it in, collaboration's better than competition. Public sector leads private investment in a lot of cases and allows for the ability to help drive policy. Peachtree Corners saved a strike down of the ability for autonomous vehicles to operate on the roadways in Georgia based on the advocacy and what they've learned and what they've done in Peachtree. So there's some true value there. And the last thing I'll say is Bill Nye said it best. Everyone you will ever meet knows something you don't. And I try to bring that in every day. So thank you guys very much.
One quick question. Let's have one quick question. Straight in the back.
If you haven't gone to the West End and you have not looked at how cool that project is, you should. There's a little bit of jealousy, not a lot, enough, but there's a little bit of jealousy. What they are doing there is amazing. The fact that we're not doing back here, those same test demonstrations, we should be. We should be exploring and we should be copying everything they're doing and doing it here.
That's not a question. One quick question. Right here, Ryan. Thank you, though.
So
Appreciate
all
it.
sounds great, but we are just recently coming out of COVID, right? Where we were all encouraged to stay in our homes. We looked at footage from China. They were shut in their homes. And so I see, and you guys can call me conspiracy theorist, whatever. 5 years ago, I'd be all on board for this. The more things are centrally being able to control, the more we can all be kept somewhere or prevented from going somewhere. So how do you balance all of this with our constitutional rights and protections?
Can I have another hour? I'm serious. I ran my mouth around about this earlier this week too. I think, so one question that was raised to me recently was, is disruption always a good thing? And I said no, because I think intentional disruption, intentional viewing of these, you have to weigh the risks and the benefits, and you have to make sure that you're having the conversations, not just amongst people like us, but the community has to be engaged as well. And I think the protectiveness, and we talk a lot about AI and facial recognition, and if you do not figure out what do you know you can control if you're the one implementing that technology, I need to be absolutely certain I know how to read contracts too, because all of this stuff is new, and I need to have somebody I need to have an expert that tells me what I'm signing on for. And then I need to make a commitment to either my customers or to the public about here is what we're capturing, here is why, here's how it benefits you, here's what we will never capture, we will never use, and then stick to it. But you have to be ready and you have to know what your framework is before you do things like this. I totally agree. It's a balanced approach, but disruption for disruption's sake is not something I personally subscribe to. Okay. Yeah.
Will you be able to stick around after the program for questions? She can stay up here for a second, please. She has agreed she'll stay around for if anyone has any questions after the program. So in honor of your presentation, our club, first of all, Rotary is very big in the fight against polio. We're this close to actually eradicating it. In honor of your speech, we will be making a donation to the Rotary Polio Plus Fund in your name. Okay, so thank you very much. There you go. All right. All right, next week, we have a Veterans Committee meeting, and Chair of that committee, Carol Del Real, would like to invite anyone who is interested in joining the committee. This program today is brought to you by Element 8, a next-generation internet service provider specializing in bridging the digital divide and providing increasingly critical broadband connections to rural and other communities. Element 8 remains unwavering in its commitment to providing outstanding telecom services and making a significant impact in the communities it serves. This dedication has been the cornerstone of its mission from the very beginning. Next week, on August the 11th, Mark Faber, General Manager, Texas Motor Speedway, NASCAR, and TMS. This meeting is adjourned.